When I was a kid, I was in Boy Scouts, and one year our troop was fortunate enough to be able to do an 11-day trek in Philmont, which is the National Scout Ranch in Cimarroncito, New Mexico. It's an amazing place, 50,000 acres, and some beautiful trails. And so anyway, we were about midway through our trek, and one day it was time for us to do some service work, and that was breaking trail. And we found that to be incredibly grueling work, and so we were sort of delighted, actually, when about 20 minutes into it, an enormous storm came, throwing down lightning and raindrops I've never seen the likes of which. So we were running for camp, and the long and short of it was that I spent the rest of the afternoon, all evening, all night, and the first several hours of the next morning in a two-man tent with my dad and my brother. I think it was the longest interval I've ever experienced. Well, we're now several weeks into this period of self-isolation, and there's the recent order from the governor to stay at home. And so I suspect that maybe you can relate to this tent experience, and maybe you're feeling a bit of cabin fever. And if that's the case, what can you do about it? It seems that one practical thing you can do is to give each other space in as much as that's possible. But there's an even more important and effective thing that you can do, and we see it from Scripture. In the Gospel of Mark in chapter 10, James and John, who are two of Jesus' 12 disciples, ask him if they basically can be the greatest. The rest of the disciples hear about it, and as you can imagine, they're not happy. This becomes a teaching point for Jesus. And here's what he tells them in verse 45. Here's referring to himself. He says, "Even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." What's the antidote to cabin fever? It's serving others. I encourage you to try it out. I think if you do, you'll find that it brings relief to those around you. But there's another benefit, and it's a paradox, in that when we are doing self-sacrifice, we experience joy.